Hello all and welcome to Jelim's Storytime episode 18. We are currently going to move on to part 2 of The Blood King Book 1, and I hope you all enjoy it. As always, head on back to episode 4 of Storytime if you would like to listen to the book from the beginning. Let's get started. Part 2, The Alliances of Foes. Chapter 14. Eleanor looked disapprovingly upon the endless stack of elegantly scrawled invitations that littered Vincent's absurdly long dining table. "This is your idea of taking Calcinia Frey out of the picture?" asked Eleanor, an overly extravagant party. Vincent sighed at Eleanor's lack of imagination. The offer of a respite in a battle lingers on the shoulders of every soldier who fights in a war. Believe me, I've lived through enough of them. The promise of peace, if only for a few minutes, is too tempting to pass up. She's been alive for 400 years, protecting her brothers. I doubt she will let her guard down for even a second, even for a ball as excessive as the one you seem to be planning, stated Eleanor. Not for her brothers, said Vincent. But she has made friends here that I am sure will be more than useful to bargain with. If you choose correctly, Calcinia might not even have the time to get involved. And how do you suppose we distract the arrogant bitch during this display? Asked Eleanor. Simple, really, stated Vincent as he stood, watching Eleanor with a smirk that practically shone with the promise of someone's demise. You give her a reason to be distracted. Eleanor sighed as she looked down at the invitations once more. I expect them to be received by the entirety of the coven. Of course, said Vincent. In 2 weeks, Eleanor, you will have your hands on those traitorous young men. Then we are to part ways. That was the agreement, stated Eleanor as she moved for the door. But if it falls through, Vincent, you will continue to be held with a leash like the vermin you are. Then Eleanor walked out of the open doorway and Vincent sunk back into an armchair by the main window, an angered frown anointing his pale brow. One of these days, Vincent vowed, his eyes flashing blood red with the promise. I'll rip her throat out for good measure. Calcinia sighed as she listened to Lady Victoria yet again rant about the pure destructiveness and insolence of her brothers. Specifically Dimitri, but Kelsey wasn't in the mood to correct the old crone. I understand that what they did was wrong, Lady Victoria, Kelsey reasoned, and I know it is a terrible loss for your coven, but you must try to view it from their point of view. They were defending themselves against further torture. That they rightfully deserved, snapped Lady Victoria with conviction. Kelsey glared at the blank phone screen, attempting to transfer her dwindling patience through the small device. No one deserves to be tortured, Lady Victoria. Even you must admit that such a custom is ancient. The Romulus Coven has stood since the rise of Rome, when a great nation rose from the Mediterranean. Calcinia glanced over at Dimitri, who sat at the end of the dining table sipping on a bottle of blood. He was glaring at Carmen, the huntress, who sat at the other end meeting his gaze with her own disdain. Kelsey rolled her eyes at the two of them, then turned towards the front door as she heard Lawrence enter. Putting the phone to her chest, she indicated for him to keep an eye on the two so that they wouldn't kill each other, and then she moved into the lounge. She had enough problems dealing with Lady Victoria at the moment. The Romulus Coven had fancied themselves the height of witch society for as long as there had been a witch society, often referring to their leader as the Queen of Witches. It wasn't that this position wasn't uncalled for. Romulus had done much to earn its place in the world, but Kelsey held the firm belief that witches could govern themselves quite well without the influence of other covens, hence her disdain for Lady Victoria's arrogance. So you, Calcinia Frey, who has no coven to call upon, should not be messing with a coven as ancient and well-bred as Romulus, Lady Victoria finished. So well-bred, Kelsey stated, that your purified male witch feels the need to punish the decisions of those who were once like himself by drowning them over and over in what he deems to be holy water, which, may I remind you, has a severe effect on vampires. You are one witch, Calcinia Frey, and empathic or not, the Romulus Coven will avenge the death of Tobias, stated Lady Victoria. Your brothers will die. Then I suggest you bring an army, Victoria, because I have no intention of letting them go without a fight, Kelsey warned. Even if I drag your entire self-righteous coven with me. You don't have the power, challenged Lady Victoria. I think you'll find that many a witch has thought the same thing, but I'm still standing, threatened Kelsey. So, you want me gone and my brothers dead? I'll add you to the hit list. Then Kelsey hung up without waiting for a reply. Looking at the fireplace with a strong glare, she spoke to no one in particular. Now I'm pissed. She marched back to the dining room where Lawrence was looking cautiously between the Huntress and Dimitri like World War III was about to break out. Right, stated Kelsey as she threw the phone at Carmen, who caught it reflexively. I don't have time to deal with you as well, so I'm going to give you a choice now. I'd advise you to choose wisely, but clearly not many are doing that today. Carmen said nothing, and her gaze fell upon Kelsey's angry form as she crossed her arms over her chest. You can leave this town with a new life and not listen to Lady Victoria, essentially starting over with a life that does not place you in immediate danger, or you can stay in a holding cell until I have time to deal with you, Kelsey stated. What's it going to be? Lady Victoria has trackers, said Carmen. You can't promise me protection in my new life. Kelsey waved her hand and a sapphire necklace with white gold surrounding it appeared in her hand. Do you know what this is, Carmen? Asked Kelsey. A very expensive piece of jewellery, Carmen answered sarcastically, an eyebrow raised. On the surface perhaps, but when worn by someone, it literally acts as a shield that rebounds any spell sent your way, including tracking and locating spells, said Kelsey. It's been charging for near on 200 years, so it should last until you're on your deathbed, at which point, should I still be alive, I will be finding it and taking it back. Thought you said no spells can be used against it, stated Carmen. Except the witch who made it, which just so happens to be me, stated Kelsey. Now decide quickly, I don't have all day. Carmen looked at Dimitri and Lawrence. She'll send more after you. I just told her to get in line, Kelsey spat. So far, we've got the Capricorn Coven and Vincent and Lorenzo after my brothers. I don't see why the Romulus Coven couldn't join in too. And you're going to stand alone against them? Asked Carmen in surprise. Kelsey sighed. My brothers and I are very old, and all our lives we've been running from expectations and enemies that we've refused to meet. But the truth is, I don't care when or where they finally catch up to us. What I care about is the possibility that my brothers will make it out alive. When you're in a family as old as mine, you never give up on that family, no matter the consequences or the fallout. Carmen was silent for a long time before she stood. That's a pretty speech for a witch that's supposed to be broken and beaten. I think desperate is the word you're looking for, said Kelsey. Have you made a decision? Carmen approached Kelsey and slowly took the jewel from her hand. Got any tips on running? Leave behind everything that is yours and start somewhere you've never been, said Kelsey. You'll have to move every few weeks for the first couple of years, but eventually you'll find a place to settle where you don't feel like your every move is being watched. I'd recommend here. A key appeared in Kelsey's hand that was attached to a piece of twine and a written note. Carmen took it slowly and pocketed it. Don't you dare scratch the Camaro, Dimitri warned. Carmen ignored him and slipped the necklace over her head. You know where to find me if you need me, Calcinia Frey. Good choice, Carmen Rosefur, stated Kelsey. Carmen looked back surprised. How'd you know my middle name? Asked Carmen. Kelsey smiled despite her foul mood. You'll know when you get there. Carmen took only a few more minutes before she was gone. Good riddance, said Dimitri as he stood from the table, taking another swig from the bottle of blood. She'll be back, stated Kelsey. Now that she's out of Lady Victoria's hands, she won't be able to resist not knowing. Not knowing what? Asked Lawrence. How she got there in the first place, Kelsey explained. Now come on, we've got better things to do, like working out where Capricorn is getting its sacrifices for the binding. Well, that's it for chapter 14. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay happy and healthy. Bye.